Welcome to another edition of Hacking TV.
This week, it looks like Tim Armstrong finally gets his dream of merging AOL with Yahoo. But will it turn into a nightmare?
Then, we are halfway through the political conventions. What role did streaming video play in Cleveland, and will it be any different in Philadelphia?
And new insights into how Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat are playing video differently.
I'm Steve Rosenbaum.
And I'm Saul Hansel.
And this
is Hacking
TV. And we are here. And we have a lot to cover, so let's jump right in.
It's the Law and Order edition here of Hacking TV.
The Law and Order edition for sure. So
the interwebs are filled with the sort of Sunday night leak story that precedes the Monday morning merger announcement. In this case, the biggest unkept secret in digital video that, yes, in fact, Verizon and AOL are going to buy Yahoo.
Which we've known for weeks. And you know, some of the folks online are not loving this deal.
Well, I think it's like what happens when your mom dies and your stepdad marries another woman from the nursing home, and yes, they should be happy in their old dotage, but you just can't see things changing this way.
So I wrote a piece for Forbes about the merger, and I went back and did a pretty good kind of romp into the 4-year story that is Marissa's journey, and there was some interesting revelations, frankly.
What did you find revealing?
Man, they bought a lot of startups. I mean,
and do you think that any of them earned their keep?
As a startup CEO myself, it looked to me a little bit like the graveyard of broken dreams. I mean, you get bought by Yahoo and they pay a reasonable price, but then there's an earn out and you have to go. And then, can you imagine if every day you're trying to run this company and somebody comes in and goes, oh, by the way, here's another team we just bought with some tech that doesn't quite fit, and piece it together and see what we can do with it. And they bought 50 companies or more.
And I'm sure Google buys that many, but because they have, their core business making so much money, they can have a lot of inefficiency. And they've, if you look at the people who are doing cool things at Google, any number of them got, acqui-hired at some point or another. But it's a sloppy business, and it doesn't solve your core problem. I mean, the biggest thing they bought was what, Tumblr?
Well, here, let me just read you the list, and you tell me if you've ever heard of any of these.
50 of them? Go ahead. All right.
Okay, I'm not going to read them all because it'll make your head explode, but here's the way where the list starts. Stamped, On the Air, Snippet, Alike, Jibe, Sumly, Astrid, GoPolo, Rondi, Quickie, Sobni, Rockmelt, Lookflow. Have you heard of any of these companies?
Other than on that random list of names that you look at when you're trying to create a startup and all the good names are taken, no.
Yeah.
Tumblr. Tumblr's interesting. Tumblr gets a lot of discussion in my house because my 14-year-old is still addicted to it, although she will list 27 ways that Yahoo ruined it. And by making it more like Facebook, when the whole point of it, she said, was to be different from Facebook.
So, the first question is, will AOL keep any of these companies? I mean, are they just going to basically, is it like the equivalent of...
AOL has a list that's 10 times as long because it's older, that's the same kind of list. I don't know what Tim wants. Let's think about what should Tim do?
Is it a little bit like when you go and you bid on a storage container before you open the door and you get it and then you unlock it and you go, what did I get here? You got some people, you got some tech, you got a bunch of IP, you got some patents. I don't know.
So here's how I would look at the business, right? There are 2.5 businesses that matter and a a bunch of options that may be worth nothing, right? So Tim is still trying to be a strong number 3 in ad tech behind Facebook and Google, right? So, and that's not a crazy thing to do within Verizon, because Verizon knows everything about everybody, including where you are and what you watch on TV. So there's an argument that Verizon plus AOL plus Yahoo has some plausible, and all the companies they bought, ad tech thing. I think it's sort of, they've been running it sort of sloppily, but they're there. The second is, if you think there is some sort of content portal-y thing or content creation thing, again, maybe in that AOL Time Warner way merged with distribution, cable company and cell phone company, I'm not sure what that all adds up to, but they have more of it. And then there is a real declining business that they can make money on off of the emails, right? There's a fair bit of money that from all the people who still have AOL and Yahoo email addresses, and you throw some like clickbait in front of them and they go click on a couple of news articles every day. And that's real money. And then there's all the crap that they bought from MapQuest at AOL to Tumblr that might or might not ever turn into anything, but nothing has so far. I mean, Tim has zero.
What happens to their formerly market-leading photo business?
Does anyone ever? So we're talking Flickr, and they've been trying to reboot that ever since Marissa got there, and it's like, why do you need Flickr in the age of Facebook? We're going to get to the very provocative question later in the show. Why do you even need YouTube in the age of Facebook? Because essentially, Facebook does all the work for you. Facebook tells you what to watch and sticks it in front of you. And Flickr you'd have to go to. And
I love Flickr so much. You know,
and how many times have you gone to Flickr in the last month?
Oh, 0. And I have a ton of photos on there.
And I don't think that's because Flickr has changed. It's because other stuff, mainly Facebook, has gotten more interesting.
Well,
more easy.
I mean, we'll talk about Flickr for just a second. So photos have gotten bigger, which means shipping them off to a cloud storage solution's gotten harder, and keeping them on a desktop solution's gotten theoretically easier. And so when I have to sync my camera, which has these now big, massive files, the extra effort of shipping them somewhere, it becomes complicated. So that's part of what I think's changed.
And where do you put your photographs now?
I have a 25 terabyte drive in my living room.
Organized by iPhoto or?
No, well, Aperture, which I love, but except that Apple killed it. And so, you know,
Speaking of grandpa in the nursing home, yes.
I've tried to figure out where to put them, but I haven't figured out yet. So, if any of our fans have a suggestion for me of what I should do with my, 400,000 photographs going back, a billion years, let me know, because I'm not sure. Anyway, so the real question is, I get Tim wanting to own all that traffic, right? And I get Yahoo Finance and all that. But, does any of Yahoo's content creation business survive? I mean, what happens to David Pogue?
Well, the company that owns TechCrunch and Engadget should be able to find a use for David Pogue.
Yep.
AOL it's a very sloppy company. I've said that before. Lots of good ideas and lots of good people, but it's not very efficient in harnessing either of them. And
presumably that's not gotten better, but gotten worse over the last, post Verizon.
Potentially. What I do know is I was at AOL when the Huffington Post got acquired. And what happened at that point was the Huffington Post people were put in charge of AOL, which was 10 times as big and 1,000 times as complicated. And it ground the place to a halt for a year because all these engineers, really smart HuffPost engineers, had to say, and what am I doing with Moviefone? And what am I doing with Spinner and Winamp and all of this sprawl? Yahoo sprawls even more. So just the process of taking these two creaky battleships apart and picking, well, who's got the best finance and who's got the best email and all that stuff, puts the company in defensive mode for a year or two.
But on the other hand, let me play optimist for a second.
Okay.
Madison Avenue has said to anyone who will listen, we want to buy audience at scale, please. We want to write less checks for bigger amounts of money so that we can buy lots of people where they sit, and we want it programmatic and automatic, and we want to put $1 in here and have it get $1's worth of eyeballs out the other side. You know, when the combined AOL, Yahoo, Verizon salesman comes calling, you have to take the meeting, right?
Well, it depends, right? In the age of Facebook, which gets half an hour a day of 1 billion people, this unique visitor thing where the game was all get somebody to look at one-page view on your site so that you could claim reach just rings hollow.
But on the other hand, but advertising agencies still produce ads and pre-roll video, and they got to put them somewhere, right?
Right, but they've got to put them somewhere where people actually spend time, because the inventory, right? So the question is, if you're saying, hey, this internet thing after 20 years is sort of real, I need to run a $50 million campaign to introduce my new SUV. Facebook's got the inventory. Well, it will. I mean, it has the time. But how much video, for example, do people really watch that AOL and Yahoo produce? Nobody has ever watched any of it.
So are we saying that if we could get in a time machine and go back 4 years and do an alternate version of history, Loeb never gets Marissa in the door, Ross Levinson gets the nod to go from acting CEO to actual CEO, Yahoo doubles down on content and it wins? Like, is that?
Well, I think that it's not doubling down, it's doing it right. Is it possible to make stuff that people want to read and watch? Yes. Is it possible for big, dumb companies with all the conflicts of Yahoo? That makes it harder, but it's not impossible. Just like it's not impossible that Yahoo could have invented Facebook. They just didn't, and it was unlikely. I mean, if I were Yahoo and I realized how many billions of dollars of value were going to disappear, I would have gone and bought Hulu or something. I would have paid way too much money to buy something that would preserve value.
Well, they spent $1 billion on Tumblr, so they weren't opposed to spending money.
Okay, so $5 billion on Hulu would have been a better deal.
Let's skip Hulu because my theory is it was never really for sale. But
okay,
right,
but
all right.
Well,
so
I'm not.
So the long and short of it is, Yahoo's going to sell. They're going to make the announcement tomorrow. Marissa's going to leave, maybe very, very quickly would be my guess. Probably not hang around. I mean, she and Tim not buddies.
I don't know the personal dynamic.
Well, but I mean,
she's a smart person who knows stuff. I mean, I don't know if she wants to work for the phone company, but if I were Tim, I would try and come up with a role for her.
I'll take that bet, by the way. I think she's got the moving people packing her office up as we speak.
I'm not saying that's not true.
I think she's doing a Roger Ailes.
I would.
Sorry.
Not what we've heard about Marissa, but anyway.
No, I didn't mean that.
Well, what else is there about Roger?
Just that he left rather abruptly, that's all.
And you saw, apropos of nothing, that Trump said, I'm neither confirming nor denying that Roger Ailes is going to help me with my campaign.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. So we've now.
Speaking of Donald Trump.
So yeah, speaking of politics,
we are halfway through the convention. We, in the last 4 years, streaming has become a regular activity in 2/3 of American households, right? So suddenly we are in a very different world, and yet I don't see that the streaming video business has made much of an impact on the conventions, right? Donald Trump had higher, not lower ratings than Mitt Romney did, although less than John McCain. And that's ratings on regular television. Do you see, what do we make of the role of internet video in the biggest, weirdest reality TV show to come along in a long time?
Well, I would say that it's had a huge impact, but not in the live OTT watch it in real time. Partly because it didn't have to, because it was enough other places that you didn't need to go scrounging around on Twitter to find the feed. But if you look at how the plagiarism story played out, there were a whole series of videos that came out of. First, there was this allegation, hey, did she actually use some stuff from Michelle's speech? And I have to tell you, when I heard that, it didn't ring true to me. I was like, come on, whatever. It seemed like Democratic spin doctoring. Then I saw a video of the two speeches side by side in a split screen, and that video was so damning, and that went everywhere. So, I think what web video did was made some of the stories that could have gotten in olden days just kind of news cycled out of commission to have more beats. You got, there was more of that story for days until finally it became clear that they had to acknowledge, because you remember the campaign's first position was, that's utter nonsense. Of course she wrote that herself. What are you talking about? And then by day 2, yeah, maybe it's not utter nonsense. Then by day 3, they have to kind of say, yeah.
I mean, I might argue that this was that the mainstream media overcovered the story, because so the hell what, right? I mean, I've got to, the internet, not internet video, if you looked in the right places, actually had some substance. I mean, I, like a lot of people, found it easier just to go watch the conventions on cable, and I watched, all 4 nights, and you could make an argument that if you want to watch something live and you want to watch it on a big screen, TV is still easier, right? So I didn't spend a lot of time rooting around to find a harder way to do something easy.
No. I agree. But I want to go back to plagiarism for just a second, because I actually I care a lot about it, and I didn't think I did, and I'll tell you why. One, everybody lied. She lied and said I wrote it.
It's not the crime, it's the cover-up. Right? I'll agree with that.
Everybody lied. Secondly, it didn't get a lot of coverage, but she said, well, the reason why Michelle's speech was something that I used to reference was because I admire her so much. We're like, wait. The people who you're running against, who you theoretically deeply despise and hate everything they stand for, because that's the standard pantomime of politics, you're actually saying you borrowed her words because you like her. Like, that didn't even make a news cycle.
Well, because Melania, who is not a political actor, I mean, if you have Hillary Clinton over here and you have Michelle Obama, you have Melania way over here. She's, a pretty face and arguably a nice mother, and she loves her Donald and all that stuff. But
somebody called her the trophy wife.
So, and there's nothing wrong with, I mean, I'm not criticizing her, but she is so apolitical as to be completely irrelevant.
All right. In any case,
but
web video was, for all intents and purposes, in the live coverage of the 4 nights, also relatively irrelevant. Is what you're saying.
And I'd also argue the internet has not improved TV as much as it should have. For example, right, the internet world has built up a fact-checking capability, and so people like Vox were doing fact-checking pretty rigorously, and the Washington Post online, and a bunch of other people, and Vox at least was trying to figure out, does anybody have any policy ideas, and they couldn't find any. And the networks didn't do any of that, right? There was just like no coming back with, let's just tell you whether any of this was true or not, and the answer is not. But I found that shocking that they were so out of the stream of where media is right now.
Now, on the other hand, despite Facebook's attempt to dial down news and go back to baby pictures and pictures of people's family vacations, I can only tell you my Facebook feed is just chock-a-block. It's all of it. Like, I don't see. Maybe I'm somehow goading Facebook into shipping me only politics, but their attempts to dial down news has been wholly unsuccessful on my Facebook feed. That's for sure. What about yours?
So, it's politics. I was actually not watching Facebook because I want to pick what I'm going to read. So I spent all week reading Talking Points Memo, which is my favorite site, and for politics, and Vox and Washington Post and New York Times, and my favorite aggregator, which is Mimi Random. And I don't need Facebook for the news. I did used to. I mean, I'm not a big Twitter person, but I enjoyed Twitter during the big speeches, and I have a Twitter list I use of 40 of the smartest political people that I can find, and that was entertaining.
So CNET, we have a clip from CNET in which they said social media's inescapable presence at the RNC was the big change over 4 years ago. And their take is that 4 years ago Facebook and Twitter shared a small room on Radio Row, and now they're there along with Snapchat, Instagram, Medium, YouTube, inescapable presence that rival traditional media at the RNC. Do you buy that?
Well, from a square feet in the press center, I don't doubt that, because there's, if you're a company like that, this is a way of showing off in front of a bunch of influencers. The question is, how many people watched whatever it is that they produced in all of that space?
All right. So according to CNET, social media giant Facebook built a giant 2-story structure dubbed Facebook Central outside the Quicken Loans Arena. I mean, I didn't see one iota of coverage from their 2-story high.
Well, part of it, again, so since Facebook is not doing Facebook branded content, they're doing stuff that YouTube has done many times, which is building a facility that other people who have brands can use. But I went and I turned on Facebook a couple times, and there was no way to navigate to their convention coverage.
Nope.
They didn't have a convention page. I mean, I just had a stream of stuff. And Facebook is great, and it's a fabulous business when you want to be passive and just sort of say, what are people talking about? But if I know what I want, Facebook has not figured out a good way of giving it to me.
All right, so I want to make sure we get time to get to YouTube. We just have a few minutes left. But let's talk about next week. What do you think is going to be different in terms of the Democratic coverage in social media, and particularly web video?
Okay, so the Democrats, we expect, are going to try and look at Trump and be opposite in all ways, slick, professional, on point, a teeny-weeny bit substantive, but sounding a lot more substantive. A-list celebrities, not like people from sitcoms that died longer ago than Methuselah, but their natural audience is younger, so is the coverage, the engagement, or the programming going to be different? I don't know.
I think they are going to back the truck up to Philly with more celebrities, more big names, more musicians, more actors. I think there's going to be so much more for the media to cover. I think you're going to see just, I mean, there was a moment the first night of the RNC where there were two veterans on stage, and they must have gone on for about 40 minutes. And they were the Benghazi veterans. But it was like, you just kept going, where's the stage manager? Going, guys, we booked you for 12 minutes, and you're on like, everything felt like a stretch. Like, we just have to fill 4 days. And I just think you're going to see so much more. I think it's going to be tighter and more Hollywood and better presented and more celebrity driven and better television. Better television.
Which
better television
will be yet another comeuppance for Trump among the 52% of Americans who pay any attention to anything, right?
Do you see that Mike Bloomberg is going to be on stage?
I saw. I mean, I'm sure, Hillary, the 800 people in Brooklyn that she has presumably are doing something and have had time to do some planning. And, so it'll be an interesting show. I saw one line that I haven't been able to find any more about where they promised technological advances. And I do know, and we should probably come back to this, that the web video production quality of Hillary's staff is quite good. I mean, they produce very nice, contemporary feeling, very pointed web videos, mostly re-editing the same crazy clips from Donald Trump over and over again. But it's So we will be there. Saul and I are going to be in Philadelphia. We're going to cover it live, right? Right, Saul? Something like I'm going to be in Bucks County on Tuesday. Is that
all right, but let's get to this YouTube thing because I want to make sure we've got just 3 minutes left.
So the Journal has a story that basically says what we've been saying on this podcast all along. That says that Facebook Live is eating up all the oxygen in the web video world. But I thought there was some nuance in the story that was interesting, helping explain why. I don't know what jumped out at you.
I'm particularly interested in Snapchat coming online as a meaningful YouTube competitor. I think that as a user, my consumption of video is surprisingly going toward more Snapchat, and I wouldn't have guessed that.
And what do you watch the most on Snapchat?
So here's what I like about it. I live in New York, and there's a New York news curated feed, and all these kooky Snapchat people submit stories into the New York feed, and someone at Snapchat highly curates them. And I, like, as much as I'd like to think I'm so plugged in that I know everything going on at Governor's Island and every concert and every cool thing at Lincoln Center, I inevitably go, wow, I didn't know that was happening. That's real. Like, I feel like I get a grassroots, authentic snap of my world that I don't get from anybody else.
I think as the focus is clear, as we get more focused, I think you can start to say the strengths of these three players are different and are coming together. YouTube is trying to do everything, but what was interesting in the Wall Street Journal piece is that it's basically seen as a search engine, right? That's how you use it. Yep. You search for things and you watch them, and then they do clickbait and they try and get you to click on random other shit that they put up next to it. And that's the YouTube experience. There's a little bit of subscribe, but that's not a big deal. Facebook, because they have the half an hour a day, ends up having 10 times the audience. And the Journal had all kinds of interesting statistics about how players like Now This News and others get far more audience on Facebook because they just shove stuff in front of people. And it's the ultimate TV passive type experience. And Snapchat is much more like cable in that it gives you a smaller number of curated choices, and it becomes a destination, a place to find stuff because it doesn't have everything.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we are out of time. We have hacked away another half hour. My apologies for next week taking up all of your primetime web viewing with what promises to be a big, frothy, star-studded, celebrity-driven political circus tent thing.
And hey, guys, if you see our growing audience, if you see anybody doing anything cool or interesting or weird in terms of political coverage on web video, tweet it to us at Hacking TV, or just say hi or that you watch. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your reviews on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you get this. And we will be back here next week.
Hack on.
Keep on hacking.